You never see her face, you only see where she puts her things. This is the means of play. Welcome to the Means of Play podcast. I am NerdPastorNate. I'm joined here by Cozy T Pastor. Every week here on the podcast, we pick a game and read it the way you might read a sacred text, slowly together, and with the assumption that it has something to teach us about being human. These are not game reviews. They're not hot takes. This is simply readings. And today we are going to be reading the game Unpacking. But before we get into reading that game, we're going to do, as we always open the episode with, a gratitude praxis, a way of us kind of expressing something that we are thankful for in the past week or so, maybe something that happened to us online since we both have digital churches, or maybe something that happened to us IRL, regardless, whatever it may be. We're going to take some time now and share those and encourage you listening to also share it, maybe in the comments down below, or maybe just in a journal prompt or something, whatever works best for you. Take some time, reflect on that. And I'm going to let Ian go ahead and start us off. What are you grateful for?
Yeah, hey, I am grateful. The last week or so has been pretty busy, but there was a game that I played at the last Next Fest, or the demo I played for a game called Walk the Frog, which is a very silly and simple game, but I really enjoyed the demo. It actually surprised me a lot, and the game came out last week, in the past week or two. So I finally had the chance to pick it up, and I streamed my whole playthrough of it because it only takes a few hours. And sometimes a game that only takes a few hours just sometimes feels really good to play it from start to finish. And it was just a really pleasant game. There's not a lot to spoil about it, but I do think it's one that's really special to experience yourself. So it's a fun gameplay mechanic of just like kind of puzzle, drag and drop, and helping Froggo get back to his pond and his friend Buddy. But there's characters you meet along the way. So it was very enjoyable. I was glad I got to play that one. But what about you, Nate? Anything you're grateful for this week?
I am grateful for the gift of technology and the capacity to have access to things very quickly. I have been binging the manga Monster, Urasawa's Monster. And it was something that, like, I was going on vacation, I would have limited internet access, but I would have my e-reader and the capacity to read things. And so I wound up finding all of Monster and just binging through it. And it was so good and so nice to just be able to have access to something like that, so immense, like to carry around. It's like a 9-volume long, and it's like omnibus length. So I think they're all like 400 plus pages. And so to carry around 9 volumes of dense manga might have been a bit overwhelming and hurt my back. But I was able to just fit it all on my e-reader and enjoy over the lapse of that vacation. I did read it way too quick, so maybe I shouldn't be too grateful. I should be grateful for the gift to rest after reading something in binge form. But yeah, good stuff. Accessibility is what I am grateful for, I suppose.
Yeah,
with this one,
your brain was heavy, but from all the reading, but your arms were really grateful for not having to carry all those books. Yeah.
Well, before we get into unpacking, I will say that in the first episode of the show, Consume Me, which would have been posted 2 weeks ago, we did ask you in the comments what would be the first thing that you might pack up if you were moving. However, it was our first episode, and we have not yet actually launched the podcast, so we haven't seen your comments because we are recording this without actually having seen them. So we're just going to imagine that you all said the right thing. Your answers were brilliant and clever and just the exact thing that they needed to be. And then we're going to answer them. So sorry if you had a brilliant answer and it's not getting read on the podcast, but do make sure to leave comments on this episode, and theoretically, we will see the responses to those. Or maybe we'll bring up the responses to the first episode. We'll see when we get there. All things in good time. But I'll kick us off since I made you start with our gratitude. Something that I would pack up very first amongst all of the other things would probably be clothes. Just in general, I really enjoy packing clothes. I don't know if it's my love of like Tetris and packing the car. Like clothes do a very similar thing to me, where I really like seeing something that takes up so much space in like a dresser or something, and then you do. I don't know if you are a pro packer or not, but if you do the roll technique with the clothes, and it's like amazing how much more you can fit into a bag. There is something so satisfying about making something that takes up a lot of room take up not much room.
That's not the place I start, and I'm really fascinated to hear like that's your go-to. Are you like the garbage bag over the hanging clothes? Because we'll do that.
For
Like,
sure.
yeah,
Yeah,
that's
this
the
is
part that's
t-shirts, jeans, and pajamas and things like that. The things that I put
Okay.
in drawers that I enjoy getting out of the way.
Yeah. I probably start with, last when we talked about the question, I was like, I think I'd start with books. But that's actually not true. I think what I would actually start with is like the kind of stuff that's like behind me. If you're watching the podcast, is like the kind of like more decorative things that are on shelves that aren't necessarily like. Unfortunately, they're the things that make a house feel more like a home. But then, like, they're the first things that I take down that then, well, this place I'm leaving no longer feels like a home. But it's the thing I'm like, if I get this done, then it feels like I've made progress and I've gotten somewhere. So I'd probably take down like decor, things on the wall, stuff like that.
Now, I
Yeah.
should say for anybody that thinks that it's like if you pack up all your clothes, you don't have any clothes to wear. What are you doing? You're going to be gross and nasty. I am also very type A, and so I don't pack early. Whenever I pack, I
Oh,
do it all. I am a beginning to end, like I will be packed and I will unpack. I know a lot of folks that are slow unpackers, but I can remember my like college days every year whenever we'd move back in and all my friends would still be like going through their boxes, and it would be like hour 3, day 1, I'm unpacked. Like I'm done. I'm ready to go and explore the campus. So I am something about my very intense personality also does lend to packing never takes me long. Unpacking never takes me long because I am maybe that's my ADHD superpower kicking in because I can't do anything but do it. I know that sometimes it backfires and means that I don't do any of it, but whenever I'm in the zone, it gets done.
I feel like that's like the perfect segue into actually talking about the game because in that way, I feel like this game really is a sweet spot for you because you, in fact, in one go, unpack everything on every
Yeah,
level.
it was the perfect
So,
pitch.
yeah. So we're going to talk about unpacking today. We're going to do a closer reading of our playthroughs and experience with this game, Unpacking. And if you haven't played it, just a little bit about the game. It's a wordless, completely dialogue-less. Well, besides a few lines at the end of each level in your scrapbook, but there is no actual dialogue. It is a cozy puzzle game by Australian studio Witchbeam. It was created in 2021. I actually think I played it maybe the year it came out, now that I think about it. But the story and the gameplay is unpacking. You unpack boxes and arrange a home across 8 moves spanning in your character's life from 1997 to 2018. And there's no dialogue. You don't actually ever see the characters besides small glimpses of them in maybe photographs that you are unpacking. Um, but there's no score. There's no fail state either. You just keep unpacking. There's only one ever wrong move you can take or wrong action, and we will get to that later. But the story is told through the stuff that you see, the stuff that you are unpacking, what's kept from one move to the next, what's displayed from one move to the next, what's left in the box or tucked away from one move to the next. We're reading this because one, it's a game that struck both of us when we started to talk about it, and that it really carries, I think, the purpose of this show in its purest and truest form. It's a game with no words, but it is entirely about meaning, and a game with no fail state, no way to lose, that still tells you at times that you can't make a home where there's no room for you. So where you put a thing in this game is how you say who you are and how you tell your story. And home, in unpacking, is the place with room for all of you. As we begin our reading of Unpacking, we want to start with the gameplay itself, how the game feels when you interact with it, what it might teach us or show us or invite us into as we are moving these objects from the boxes onto the shelves, the bed, or wherever you might be placing them, that the form itself is a part of the storytelling.
It's
And
really the only game that I've ever played quite like it in that regard. Like, I think mechanics-wise, it's like a part of a game rather than a whole game. It for those that have not played this game yet, if you maybe have played like The Sims or something along those lines, where you like buy things in the game and then pick a place to place them, that's the whole thing. Like, you're just continually unpacking the thing and then finding a location. And so you're maybe rotating the item here and there, but you're making sure that you have like an area for things to logically go. So if you unpack a shirt, you might go to the dresser and put that shirt away, or put it on the hanger in the closet, or what have you. But like, everything can kind of go anywhere, and the actual mechanics of the game are literally just taking it and putting it in a location.
Yeah. And I think, the practice of knowing, one, you can only do one item at a time. So you have to take that into account. You take an item out of a box, you see what it is, and you might have to move things around. There's certain limitations, I guess, is true. Like, you can't just put everything on the floor. You have to put it somewhere, whether it's displayed or put away. But besides that, you are free to place many of these things where you'd like to. But you get to take one item at a time, consider it, think about, I think, the story that's being told, and maybe it starts to touch on something in your own life of saying, where would I put this? Where would I display this? How would I unpack this object in my life? So there's, like, I talked about the photographs, right? If there's a bulletin board in the character's office or room, you could start to stick those there however you'd like to display them, or you could put them on the desk, or there are many ways to listen and to tell this story.
Which is real.
Tetris.
I mean, that's real life. Like, we display things in particular ways. Like, sometimes my wife and I will even disagree on where something goes in the house, of like what makes sense for a certain photo to go somewhere, or for a certain piece of decor to go somewhere. A lot of the things that are in my office here are things that are not allowed in the house, right? Like, they're the nerdier things. Marcus the Worm would probably not make a comfortable appearance inside of my wife's decor. But a lot of what you do speaks to what you value. And so the things that you're doing innately kind of become a part of your character's story. And so while there are some things that are going to probably look identical, a lot of people are going to put their toothbrush in the toothbrush holder. That's just going to be kind of the logical step. TV remote might go with the TV, or it might go on the like side of the sofa. So even there, you might have some variance. But everybody's got their own like style, and the style that you have becomes an extension of your character. There are still innate things that the character is embodying. For instance, there's going to be some like continued elements throughout these varied moves that are going to tell us what this character believes about themselves. They're a creative person, very likely a weeb. There are going to be moments that come up with like cosplay, with anime stuff going on, with video games. They have a console here and there, and some things that they play with here and there. And there are going to be those elements that tell you a little bit about this person. And then your ludological choice, your player-based choice is how do these things then get organized? What do you hide from the world? What do you show to the world? What makes sense where in your space? And there are certain choices that you have to make along the lines of like, not everything fits. And so sometimes you've got to make sure that some things get put away. Maybe only certain decorations make the bulletin board, while the others, end up in a drawer. Maybe some people don't mind clutter, and some folks are like, nope, my character is going to put everything away except for the things that are being actively utilized. All of this is a part of the actual like reading of the game. You're all at once reading this character while also kind of being read yourself, of what are your instincts for what makes sense in this kind of domestic chore of putting stuff away.
Yeah, I think as you're talking about that, I thought about like my own office space, like you said, like what belongs in what space, and like uh recently had a few people over that had never been to our house, right, and showing them, right, this office that I work out of in my home is like showing someone a part of me, and there's like this vulnerability to it because of what I choose to display, what I choose to have out. And then there are other things that, like, I have Pokemon cards back here, right, and some of them are in display, but then some of them are in binders. And so what do those things say? And in the same way is like I'm thinking through, like, if I pack all this stuff up, right? I said I'd probably pack this part up first. As I unpack it, what do I want to put on the shelf first? What begins that process of saying, this is me and this is what I want in front, if people were to see it, right? To tell a little bit more about what means the most to me. And also creates this consistency. I think what we see and what you mentioned is there are some things that carry on. I think one of the most iconic ones in the game is the stuffed pig that's in the like the graphic for the game, or the box art. I don't know if there's a box, but you know what I mean, for this game. So you'll see the stuffed pig, and it'll change a little bit over time as it wears out and gets repaired. But there's a couple others. One that I remember was the Rubik's Cube, shows up in a number of the levels, and I don't remember if it gets unpacked in every one, but it gets unpacked in a number of them, and it kind of carries that theme of gaming and logic, and this stuff that starts at her childhood and continues on as a part of her. And you can even solve the Rubik's Cube a little bit. Like if you click it, I think a couple times, it
I didn't know
um,
that.
yeah, I don't remember if I knew that the first time I played, but then I learned it later. But those little moments that say, there's a part of her, there's a part of this character that continues on, just like when we're moving from one place to the next in our lives, transitioning, there's something sacred and meaningful when we can bring and carry some of our story to the next place, to the next thing, to the next moment and season that we might be going through. Brings us comfort,
Yeah.
I think.
Yeah, I think it's really curious. I've never thought about, like, I wonder if I should encourage my wife to play this game and see how her choices would differ. I know that whenever we've played this game in, some of the members at Checkpoint. We had played it on stream whenever it first came out, and then some of the folks from Checkpoint Church played it as well. And we all just have very different vibes. I can remember some people who took a lot longer. I kind of burned through this game. Like, again, my type A. I was like, I knew where I wanted things to go, and I didn't overthink things. I didn't move a lot because once something kind of settled, I was pretty happy with where it was. There might have been like a couple things that I would have moved, but by and large, that's pretty true of my real life. Like, if I pick a drawer that the scissors go in and then find a better place for the scissors to go, I don't care. I've already put the scissors in that drawer, and that's become the scissor drawer, and that's just its existence now. And so I think that it's all like this one big personality test. I'm so glad this game doesn't do a personality test because I think they really could. There could be a paging Dr. Freud kind of moment of like, the reason you did this is because of this and because of that. And I don't know if I want to know, but it is an interesting experience. One of the things this game does really well as well on like a ludological level is that you start out in a very small room. And so you're only able to place so many things. It's like your childhood room. You're growing up, maybe you're like 17 or whatever, and you're like about to go to college, but for now you're still in your like home. And so you're trying to figure out where to put things. And then you go to your dorm room, and then things open up a little bit. And then maybe you go to your first apartment and things really open up. But then they do this really clever thing that I want to talk about next, which is after giving you a little like tiny taste of freedom, a little tiny taste of what it looks like to grow up, to become a college student, to go out into real adult life. There's this twist that the game takes where all of a sudden all of your freedom is taken away. And the way they do that is you start dating. I've always ascribed it as a boyfriend. I don't know if they ever actually name it one way or the other. It just feels like a boyfriend's apartment.
Yeah.
You end up moving in with your boyfriend, and your boyfriend has already got his life figured out. Like, you can really pick up on the vibe this game is trying to lay down of he already has his own kitchen utensils. He already has his own decorations. He already has his own entertainment items. He already has his own space in the closet. All of this is already kind of his space, and you're entering into the space and trying to find a place for your things, which up until that point, I think that's fair. I think that's like, yeah, like that is real life. That's what you do. As somebody that has like made that life move, I'm very familiar and continues to make it. I have 2 little kids who more and more take over my space. And so like my things have less space, have less room. That's a part of life. That is a part of like the natural reality. But it is a tension. It is nonetheless like a place that, in a game that has very little tension and very little pushback, this is something they're really trying to dig into in the like psyche of your character and in the phenomenon of trying to find a place for your things. And that's where our thesis really shines of like, yes, where you put something says a lot about you, but there's also the level of like, even having a place at all is kind of a part of it, is kind of a luxury, is kind of a part of a privilege of like a true home, a true place to be is actually having a place for things. And so that's where this game, I think, really begins to take the twist, which is the major antagonist, if you can even call it that, in this game. There is one moment in particular where you're moving into your boyfriend's apartment. You've already had the tension and the stress of figuring out where to place things, and then the item happens, which is your diploma. You're an educated person. You've graduated. You've done the thing, and you start to look for a place for it. Logical for me. I personally don't have my diploma hung anywhere, but I looked for the wall. I was like, I'm gonna see if the wall makes sense, and it didn't let me do that. And so I was like, okay, well, I guess maybe I'll try to put it somewhere, maybe like in a drawer. It wouldn't let me put it in a drawer, and tried to put it in storage. It wouldn't let me put it in storage. And at least for my playthrough, there was only one place where it would let it go, and it hurt so bad I had to hide it under the bed. The boyfriend forced me to not just like ignore my education, not just ignore the work that I'd put in, but to like debase it, to put it into a place of like shame almost, which I think is what they're going for. And I think it was a real twist with this one, and a pretty clear read is the game developers really want you to experience the tension of not only a place that doesn't have room for you, but a place that doesn't have room for who you're becoming. For who you're evolving into, for the person that you've shaped yourself into up until this point. They not only want you to figure out how to adapt and make your things fit in, but they also want you to hide parts of yourself that don't mesh with the lifestyle of this theoretical boyfriend. Is that about how you read it as well?
Yeah, I remember, and I'd be curious to hear more of your thoughts in a second, because you said you really did, you were able to like really blow through this game and move through it quickly, as like how this level felt, because I remember getting to it and feeling kind of trapped and stuck, and it was a lot harder to think through because nothing really felt like it fit in this level. Like everything I put away was like, I don't like it, but I guess that's where it has to go because nothing else can be moved. And I think if I remember right, it wasn't just the diploma, but that was definitely one of the hardest hitting moments of like that was that symbol of accomplishment and becoming who you are is now tucked away. But I think it was also some of, because her degree is like in arts and graphic design, something like that. We get to that, see that even more played out later. But I think some of the art books and other things were also kind of tucked away. There wasn't much room for them either. So it was like not just the symbol of accomplishing those things, but also all the other things that has helped lead towards that growth. And it was not having really space in the closet for your clothes besides like on one shelf, and even in the living room, I think it was like, where do you put your movies or games? And there's nowhere for you to put your decorations on the wall because um, you mentioned, you know, the scissors in your house. Like if the scissors already have a spot, they don't move.
Right.
I'm not trying to call you out or anything, but that's a little bit of like
Right.
his character is, I'm assuming it's a him, is saying, well, I've already got this up here, so it can't really move at this point. So it never
No,
became her space. It was
I think
just
that's a totally
his.
fair call out. And I think that's why he reads as a boyfriend, is because I do think there is like this masculine kind of energy of, of a space that's already been claimed. There's a kind of territorialism. And I think that makes it, all at once, this game is doing two things in this moment of like, making you feel like this person who is not being included, which I think a lot of us can share that feeling. But then also it's maybe giving us the invitation to rethink how we do things, to rethink how inclusive are we being, how much am I willing to budge and to adapt my life to somebody else, which I think is an honest and important moment of introspection. Like I think both of those things are incredibly relevant. Even if one may read as more masculine, that doesn't mean that only people who are masculine experience it. We all have moments where we're unwilling, unbudging, and stubborn, and we all have moments where we feel unincluded and left out, and like we're being forced to fit into a mold that we don't belong in. Because I think that both of those things are incredibly true.
No, I think that's a great reading, especially you're saying that, and that kind of took me scripturally to a place of like, when we're reading the Gospels as people of faith, if we're reading the Gospels, if we're reading the stories about Jesus, I think it is easy for us to slip into the narrative of like saying we're on the disciples' side, like we're always going to be acting like the people who follow Jesus, and that there are really important moments where we need to also put ourselves in the shoes of the Pharisees and say, when are we the upholders of the law that are restricting grace, are creating places that don't have room for others, or creating boundaries and limitations, or setting these obstacles for people. And so that's a great, I think, invitation or reminder of this moment in particular is, not just when have you felt like the person who has not had this space or been left out or kind of not been able to be who they are, but also the other side when you've done that to someone else. That's really good.
Yeah. Seeing grace as an opportunity to transform, regardless of what it is, we're invited into something that is meant to transform us, that's meant to change us. And I think that's important. And change we do. The game itself, again, is pretty insistent upon this being a unhealthy relationship. And I think that read is pretty much what they give you, because you clearly break up. And in the midst of that breakup, things narratively take I think another fascinating twist of twisting the knife a little bit deeper. After you move into your boyfriend's apartment, you break up and you move out, and the kind of like logical life leap typically for folks is they move back in with their parents. And so you move back into your childhood room from the very beginning of the game, which you'll remember was pretty small. And now you've only gotten more things. So your life has only gotten bigger. It makes your childhood room feel that much more cramped. So even though it's a bit more of a like logistical issue, whereas your boyfriend was like a emotional issue, there is still a level of tension in this part where you still are kind of figuring out where does your life fit, where do things fit into this space. But then thankfully, again, that invitation to transformation continues, and you move out of your childhood room and into what I think the game really wants to present as this quintessential apartment, as this like this is your first like real place where you are fully welcome. You have an office for your things. You have too much space, really. That's like the gift of the final room is they've shoehorned you this whole game into middling amounts of space to not enough space, and then all of a sudden you're in this like phase of life that the game is going to end you on, which is you finally realize what it's like. Again, landing on our thesis, you finally realize what it's like to not only be able to name what makes you you, but having room for all of it, and not just enough room, but more than enough room. A not only fulfilled, but a grace upon grace kind of space where there's so much opportunity for the things that you love to go. There's so much, it really becomes like a sim-like game where you really just get to design to your heart's content. This is the apartment that I have a feeling a lot of people spend the most time on, because they have the opportunity to just kind of, do whatever they want and go crazy with it.
Yeah, you feel like for the first time in a while in the game, because I remember I pretty much played through this in one day. I maybe took some breaks, but I did play through the whole thing in one day. And I remember getting to this point and like you just feel like you have breathing room again, where you hadn't in the last few levels, especially. And I don't know about you, but I enjoyed it. I tried to enjoy it and soak it in, because it was just like you said, there was more room than you would ever need, and that gives our character the ability, the opportunity to explore even more of who they are. You know, they have these things that have already made up the pieces of them and their story, and you get to present them, but then there's that other space of exploration and deeper understanding, and it felt safe, I think, was also really important. I think moving back into your childhood home was like, there's the fear of like, oh man, am I starting over from nothing, right? Am I going all the way back to 1997? You know, is this what this feels like? And so then um, this feels safer than that, even though it's not your childhood home, but it's something new, and that can be mysterious and unknown and scary, but something about it feels so much safer than what was before. I don't know
I
if
think
you
that's
felt
such a
that
good
too.
thing to name, of
Yeah.
the reality of like, I think that this game is really trying to present hope in a really interesting way that you
Hmm.
wouldn't expect from a game like this. Like, I feel like it's almost making a kind of gospel message argument. Again, if you're with us in that light, like there is this, it's like a hero's journey. They really do give the game and the character permission to reach like the lowest low, of really feeling like, how will I ever get out of this hole? How will I ever make it past this moment? But they don't leave us there. Instead, they show us kind of the other side. They show us the like faithfulness that leads to something more. And that ending of the game is like the ultimate example of hope, where we've just shown you how far you can fall back, because I think all of us know that feeling. I think everyone knows the feeling of losing things, whether you literally lose everything or not. Like, she still had a home. She still had her things. She still had her family to take care of her. There was still a lot that she had. But in that moment, we all know how that feels, to feel like you've lost something, to feel that like emptiness. And to be reminded, maybe you're playing this game and you're in that moment of emptiness. I think to be reminded of the hope that's on the other side is what this game is trying to do. Is to let you know that like all of these moments, all of these moves, all of these various rooms that you're in, there's always another one. There's always a next one. And we don't know what happens in the rest of this character's story. We don't know what happens after this apartment. We don't know what goes on in their life beyond this point. Maybe they have a total change of heart in their passions and they go into a completely different career or whatever. You know, like we all have those moments. That's what life is. But the reminder of this game is really so anti-nihilistic. Like, it's trying to be something that is so very vehemently hopeful, of like, there's always another chance, and that's the good news. There's always something ahead. There's always tomorrow. There's always another opportunity, and that in and of itself is the good news. And I just think that's a really important thing to name. Yeah. So there's plenty to be said about this game, and a game that has very few words. I think that's intriguing, that it can go to so many places. But I think that's the freedom of not saying much, is it gives us the opportunity to kind of place our skin upon the game, to read into it what we need to read into it. And so I think that can be our lesson for any means of play listeners who are learning how to read games, is that sometimes the best games are the most minimalist, because you are given the most permission to experience them. And so that's both an argument for this game and also an argument made by this game, because like we've said a couple times now, our thesis for this one is where you put a thing is how you say who you are. The stripped away layers of this game allow us to put a lot of who we are into it. And then the game tells us that the home that we need, the thing that'll make us feel whole, is a place with room for all of us, for all the things that make us who we are. And so that's where we'll land this one. This has been an Unpacking reading. I hope that you've enjoyed it as well, and will let us know your thoughts on it. But we're going to work into our final part of the show, which is our 2 questions that we ask at the end of each episode. For those of you that don't know, I'm NerdPastorNate. I pastor a church called Checkpoint Church. Ian is Cozy Tea Pastor, pastoring the Cozy Tea Church community. And we have 2 questions kind of inspired by those communities that we answer on each of those episodes. And the first one is, how did you checkpoint this week? And by checkpoint, we mean, how did you show up meaningfully online? How did you experience life online in a meaningful way? And I can start here and say that I have been trying to be more in the chat of some streamers, trying to do more of like showing up for other people. And I just always enjoy getting to be a bit of a goofball and use my improv background to say some silly things in the chat. And I was on the Good Game Lobby stream not too long ago watching one of their showcases, and just getting to be a real goofball was very fun. And say the lead person there even commented on like, you should be streaming because you're funny. And it's always nice. It's always nice to hear that that my jokes are landing and that I'm bringing a good mood to the space. So that's how I checkpointed this week. How about you?
Yeah, this week I was kind of thinking of something a little different than usual, but I've been working on with Cozy Tea Church project some new graphics, illustrations, and stuff with an artist that I found online. And so this past week has been a lot of like collaborative idea sharing back and forth and just, messaging this artist. And is a different way to connect with someone through a project that, of course, I'm paying them for, but also like, I don't know, had some good conversation just about the creative process. And I enjoy being a part of that with someone else. And so it was just a gift to get to connect with someone and also celebrate the really good work that they've put together for Cozy Tea Church. So yeah, it was a fun way to connect with someone, a different kind of way.
Yeah, it is. It's an interesting thing to celebrate someone's artistic talents. Kind of speaking about unpacking, I think that is a thing worth noting, is like talented people. It's always good to see them do what they do best. Then our second question is inspired by Cozy Tea Church, which is, how were you cozy this week? What was something cozy that you might have done that brought you some joy there? And so I'll let you lead with this one.
Yeah, I think I had to make some small cozy choices, and sometimes those are the ones that maybe speak loudest when you need them. Just being a hectic week, I had a couple late nights of meetings and things, and so it was very important for me on those days that when I got home, sometimes I just need to change from like the work clothes, like the pants and the button-up shirt or whatever, into something much more comfortable. And like that, sometimes I'll kind of let that, I won't do that right away, but I knew this week I was like, I need to like immediately when I get home, just relax. And so I was like making the choice a couple nights this week, get home, get in the more comfortable shorts and t-shirts and just feel like I'm actually settled at home. And so I think those little choices really, really paid off for me this week.
Nobody talks about the
you?
transition from work clothes to lounge clothes, to just vegging out. But that's a ritual
Underrated.
that I cherish.
Yeah. It's underrated.
Yeah, for sure. I was cozy. I mentioned at the start of the show that I had a bunch of time to read because I was on vacation for a little bit, took a quick trip away. And usually whenever I take a quick trip, I am going to my in-laws, and they have a pool where they live. And so I love the pool. It is like my coziest of cozy places, although I do normally get sunburnt and that is less cozy. But in the moment, I am extremely cozy. One of my favorite things to do is to swim. I just enjoy being in the water and just kind of laying on my back and getting my ears like just enough under the water to where everything gets a little muffled and distorted, and I'm able to just kind of close my eyes and enter into a sort of Zen-like state there. That's one of my favorite things. And so that is how I was cozy in this past week. And that is where we're going to wrap this one up. Again, where you put a thing is how you say who you are. We hope that you will take that with you as you've listened to this episode and into the energy that you have going forward to think a little bit more about the things around you, about the kind of domestic lifestyle that we have of just placing things, of just putting things around us. Be more considerate of what you put where and what that says about you. Thank you for listening to this episode. If you're looking for more places to find Cozy Tea Pastor or NerdPastorNate or Checkpoint or Cozy Tea Church, or just to find out more about this podcast, you can find out all of that on meansofplay.com. And we are going to be putting out the next episode in 2 weeks on the video game Mixtape. This is our newest video game that we'll be talking about, a 2026 release. And it is a game that plays a lot like a playlist from the 90s. So our question that we're going to be asking this time, that we encourage you to weigh in down in the comment section down below, is what would be on your dream 90s music playlist? This is one of my favorite eras, so I will look forward to hearing what kind of cringy tunes people are dropping down below. Embrace the cringe, folks. The more cringe, the better, as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah, lean into it.
Seeing what you say. And with that, we're going to wrap up. And until next time, may you find a means of play.